Hi all, my name is Lisa De Leeuw and I work for Data Archiving and Network Services, which is DANS for short. And I'll be presenting the RDA adoption story on the CoreTrustSeal certification we went through. Basically, I want to give you some background on who we are first and then go into the process that we went through. DANS is the Netherlands Institute for Permanent Access to Digital Research Resources, and we encourage researchers to make their digital research data and related outputs findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Yes, that's fair. We provide expert advice and certified services. Our core services are Data Personnel, which is for short-term data management. We have EASY, our long-term archive, and NARCIS, the National Portal for Research Information. By participating in international projects, networks, and research, DANS contributes to continued innovation on the global scientific data infrastructure. Open if possible and protected where necessary is our motto. DANS is an institute of the Dutch Academy of the KNW and the funding organization MBO. Our mission is to promote and provide permanent access to digital research information. DANS is and has always been heavily involved in creating and achieving certification for trustworthiness of digital repositories. We are one of the founding fathers of the Data Seal of Approval and acquired our first DSA certification in 2011. It was renewed in 2013 and prolonged in 2016. Next to that, we acquired World Data System certification in 2015 and the Nestor DIN seal in 2016. This was complemented in 2018 by the CoreTrustSeal. So over the years, we went through the process of acquiring certification with two goals. Firstly, to show our stakeholders the trustworthiness of our repository, and secondly, to improve our internal processes and update our documentation. Preparing for certification is a perfect opportunity to raise the bar and reinforce collaboration between our archive, IT, policy, and also legal departments. DANS's primary target group includes scientific researchers with a focus on social sciences and humanities, and to a lesser extent, public and private organizations that carry out research, which is either commissioned by national or local authorities. They are both data producers and data users. Researchers in training, for instance, doctoral students, belong to this primary target group as well. Data with a scientific significance collected by companies such as polling organizations and archaeological companies are also welcome. Besides researchers and research organizations, journalists and the wider public are invited to use our data services, including our repository. A substantial part of our data sets are available open access. So what was our challenge? Why did we do this? DANS wants to show the trustworthiness of its repository to its users and also other stakeholders, thereby creating confidence and having a way to differentiate our repositories from others in the field. As digital preservation is part of our mission, we would like to raise awareness for this subject as well. Not being certified makes it harder to demonstrate to researchers and research support staff why trustworthy digital repositories are essential for keeping their research data reusable or even fair. Like I said, findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable in the long term. Funders are also getting stricter where data or research data is deposited and that they remain well preserved over a longer term. So not being a trusted digital repository could stop the inflow of data into our repository, as depositors would choose another certified repository instead. So we adopted the RDA recommendation for audit and certification catalogs for repositories. How do we get to RDA as a potential supporter? We, DANS, have been very active in the RDA since the beginning, amongst others by co-chairing or participating in working groups and interest groups, because we appreciate the grassroots approach and global coverage provided by the RDA. We organized the fourth RDA plenary in September 2014 in Amsterdam, and DANS Deputy Director Ingrid Dillo, she has been active in the TAB, has been the acting Secretary General for the RDA in 2017 to 2018, and is now a member of the RDA Council. So this long-standing involvement in the RDA made it obvious for us to collaborate on certification requirements for data repositories through the RDA. So the recommendation that we took was the repository audit and certification catalogs, which is a two-part recommendation produced by one of the interest groups in the RDA. It harmonized the common procedures and requirements for certification for repositories at the basic level, drawing from procedures and requirements already put in place by the DataSeal approval and the World Data System. And based on this effort, they were merged within this working group into the CoreTrustSeal. DANS has used the CoreTrustSeal to sustain and display its reputation as trustworthy digital repository in a transparent way, which induces stakeholders' confidence and differentiates us from others, as I said before. At the same time, it helps us raise awareness on digital preservation and the importance of long-term availability of data for reuse. Next to that, the procedure of getting certified improves internal but also external communication on our overall mission and goals, but it also has a positive effects on our processes and procedures, making them even more effective and efficient. So what are the benefits? In 2017, DANS has written a self-assessment on the basis of the 16 requirements of the CoreTrustSeal, and we received certification in April 2018. Similar to previous occasions where we wanted to acquire certification for our repository, we have done so for the following reasons. First, to promote a repository as a trustworthy digital repository, increasing our stakeholder confidence by showing we are a reliable partner for funders, depositors, and users of data. Next to that, to have a transparent way to prove that we are a trustworthy digital repository. And we would like to differentiate ourselves from others. One of our core missions is to raise awareness on digital preservation, and this helps too. Next to that, we wanted to check, improve, and update our policy and workflow documents, and for instance, our long-term preservation plan, because this is one of the requirements. Reevaluate and make improvements to our technical solutions and processes for the long-term preservation. And going through the certification process is a very good team building exercise because it brings people from different departments together with a common goal. So what was the process we went through? The method is basically you write a self-assessment, which we started in August 2017, and we submitted it to the board in September, so it took a while to write it. The self-assessment was then reviewed by the board and sent back to us with comments on the requirements we needed to elaborate on further or maybe improve a little bit. The self-assessment was sent back and forth about 3 times in total before the board actually approved our application, and this process helps you make your self-evaluation more transparent, but also better and more understandable for the outside world. So after 3 times, the board awarded us the CoreTrustSeal, which was in April 2018. And the DANS self-assessment for easy and our CoreTrustSeal review by the board is available online on the website of CoreTrustSeal. Several DANS staff were involved in the process, and for most of them, collecting and providing the evidence for the self-assessment is interwoven into their primary task. So that makes it hard to identify what part of their time was especially devoted to the CoreTrustSeal certification, but we made an estimate anyway. So the efforts of going through getting certification for CoreTrustSeal basically was on 4 different topics. The first one was related to our policies, not only regarding the repository, but also regarding the organization, because it's good to give the context in which you're archiving data and how you do that. The second one was related to the technical infrastructure of our repository, for instance, on internal consultation and design, on the development and also documentation of it. The third one was related to the text of the self-assessment itself, because we went through the process before with data seal approval and also World Data System. We used the old assessments and improved the text that we submitted before. But we also had to write new text because we are in an ever-evolving environment. And yeah, we try to adapt to the changes as much as possible when they happen. Next to that, adapting text of documents which are offered in support of CoreTrustSeal criteria also takes some time, as well as adapting text on the DANS website, because we want to support our claims to certain compliance levels that we adhere to as transparent as possible. And of course, there's a lot of internal consultation about the text and what they should look like. And the fourth pillar was basically project management, trying to get all these eggs in one basket and making sure that we work together and get there. So to conclude, we estimate the net effort, of applying for CoreTrustSeal certification is about 250 hours, which we consider quite acceptable every few years. Clearly, the effort required correlates with the pursued levels of compliance. It takes less time to provide an up-to-date description of the repository state of the art than, for instance, to design and implement major improvements of the technical infrastructure. Finally, it is good to note that the application process both stimulates and is stimulated by the everyday repository processes. So what was the technical challenge that the output solved? Basically, getting certified by CoreTrustSeal doesn't solve technical requirements by actually providing technical challenges, by providing technical solutions, but it does give you a context in which to think about the technical challenges you face. Because CoreTrustSeal publishes all the approved self-assessments on their website, it's a database of knowledge, and you can look at how peers have solved similar challenges that you run into. And they are freely accessible, so they can be used to inspire solutions in your own domain or repository. Furthermore, the OIS reference model is used as a base for the CoreTrustSeal requirements, so it provides a common framework and a common language when you are working on certification. So what advice would I give, or would DANS give actually? What are the lessons that we learned from the adoption process? As the application for certification of our repository is an exercise that DANS repeats at regular intervals, we are quite at home in the procedure, but we would like to make the following recommendations to, well, first-time or applicants. Without submitting a self-assessment, the CoreTrustSeal requirements can be used as an internal benchmark to assess the repository state of the art, as the requirements and the reviewer's guide that is used to look at if you adhere or not are freely accessible on the CoreTrustSeal website. Furthermore, like I said, all the approved self-assessments of repositories are available. So this means you can access self-assessments of related repositories in your field, which can be used for inspiration or finding solutions to common problems, and it will help you prepare for the official submission. Higher management should be the driving and connecting force, disseminating the importance of trustworthiness through certification in the entire organization, making resources available when and where necessary, and taking strategic decisions on needed improvements, if any, of course. Acquiring certification is a team effort, and it works best if everyone within the repository is on board. It's a great team building exercise. And especially first-time applications require a lot of effort depending on the maturity of the documentations of processes and procedures. Often when you start a certification procedure, you find that the process and and procedures used within your repository are very well thought out, but not always documented sufficiently, as a lot of knowledge is in people's heads and not on paper. Oh, that went too fast. Furthermore, seeking certification can lead to the need for updating and/or changing the design and implementation of major improvements for the technical infrastructure. This could take a lot of time. That is not necessarily part of the certification process, but it does need to be taken into consideration when starting the process. Next to that, as the certification allows different levels for compliance to requirements, it could be that you identify areas that need or want improvement through the certification process. In the self-assessment, you can state that this work is in progress and it will be ready by the next certification round in 3 years. So you don't have to be perfect to start off with, kind of thing. You can say, okay, we're in this stage and we are working towards the next. Getting certification at regular intervals strengthens and develops your repository, and it helps it keep it relevant for the future. So it's something that we just recommend that you should do. Certification of your repository is not a one-off exercise. In the ever-changing environment we work in, we recommend to go through the process on a regular basis, as stated. The CoreTrustSeal certification, for instance, is valid for a period of 3 years, after which it needs to be reviewed. We definitely recommend other repositories to get certified, or at least to use the requirements as an internal benchmark to check the quality and sustainability of the repository service, its processes, and also its staff. Clearly, certification is not something you do to impress other repositories. On the contrary, Science Europe, the organization of research funding and research performing organizations in Europe, has developed criteria for the selection of trustworthy repositories. These criteria contain a recommendation that repositories that are not yet certified seek certification. We can only encourage repositories to prepare for this and to benefit, like us, from the boost that a certification process can give to internal communication and collaboration, on top of course, raising the level of trustworthiness. Thank you for your time.